The telecoms industry is responsible for somewhere between 1.5% and 3% of global carbon emissions. This puts them in the same range as the much scrutinised aviation industry, which causes 2% of global emissions, highlighting the scale of the issue for telcos. Many telcos have started to take action to reduce their emissions, but are facing a key challenge. 95% of the average telco's emissions originate from outside their operational boundaries, either from purchased electricity, heating and cooling, or from embedded upstream supplier emissions and downstream emissions incurred by customer activities associated with telco products and services. Therefore, for telcos to meet their ambitious emissions reductions targets, it's critical for them to collaborate with players across the value chain. Thankfully, owing to their scale and the power they yield, particularly over suppliers, telcos are able to band together with players across the ecosystem to address these challenges. There are several levers that they can pull on to reduce their carbon footprints. A few examples include sharing best practices with each other and also upstream and downstream across the value chain. They could also apply pressure on suppliers, and they can collaborate with standards agencies and regulators to have sustainability standards both adopted and printed into legislation. Applying purchasing power pressure on vendors could be a particularly interesting example. So telcos could mandate their vendors to report on their sustainability KPIs, such as emissions incurred during site visits, and to then include these into their SLAs. They could even avoid purchasing from network equipment providers whose products have particularly high embedded emissions. These levers can be even more powerful when industry players band together into initiatives to formalise collaboration efforts and commit players into acting in environmentally sustainable ways. For example, the ITU has formed an alliance with the Global E-Sustainability Initiative, also known as GESI, to provide information, resources and best practices, which include frameworks, tools and platforms to help their members achieve sustainability through ICT. While scoring telcos on their collaboration efforts as part of our February update to our sustainability scorecard, which benchmarks telcos and vendors on their sustainability performance, we did notice the good intention of these initiatives and also their members, but we did witness that they fell short on proving impact and progressing towards the goals and targets that they set for themselves and their members. However, there are some simple activities that telcos can engage in to ensure their efforts yield positive results and to prove their impact. These initiatives should set clear long-term goals and objectives and break them down into shorter-term milestones to ensure goals are pursued with a sense of urgency. They should also measure their success by collecting KPIs that clearly map over to these goals, and they should ensure to hold members accountable by setting clear membership mandates and by monitoring members' adherence to these, penalising them if they fail to do so. This may seem quite daunting, but telcos should still view pursuing sustainability as an opportunity rather than purely as a challenge. Progressive telcos can connect with increasingly environmentally conscious customers and investors, whilst future-proofing their business models and gaining a cost advantage in the medium to long term, particularly as the scarcity and penalties for fossil fuels continue to increase. But given how ambitious some of their emissions reduction targets are, and the increasingly dire state of our environment, it's imperative that telcos start collaborating now.